good to be back in Michigan. Thank you all so very much. Thank you. Thank you so very much. And Eric Price, thank you for your leadership of UAW 651 and all the work you do. And I want to thank all the leaders who are here. We got thousands of leaders who are here, and I thank you. Including all our friends in labor, Sean Fain, April Barrett, all of the incredible elected leaders, starting with the Governor Whitmer, who is amazing, and is my friend, my dear friend, Mayor Neely, Senator Stabenow, Senator Peters, Representative Slotkin, who we will elect to the United States Senate. And did you all see Magic Johnson? Remember his number? 32. Today we got 32 days until the election. So 32 days. 32 days. Okay, we got some business to do. All right. 32 days. And we know we will do it. And this is going to be a very tight race until the very end. This is going to be a very tight race until the very end. We are the underdog, and we know we have some hard work ahead. But here's the thing about us. We like hard work. We like hard work. Hard work is good work. Hard work is good work. And with your help in November, we will win. We will win. We are not playing around. So listen, we know this election is about two very different visions for our nation. One focused on the past, and ours, which is focused on the future. We are fighting for a future where we tap into the ambitions and the aspirations of the American people and build what I call an opportunity economy, so every American has an opportunity to own a home, build wealth, start a business. And I'm going to speak about do we have small business owners in the house right here? Right? Okay, so on the economy, I'm just going to spend a minute on small businesses. Because let me tell you, so growing up, our mother often worked very long hours. And so my sister Maya and I, we would go over to Miss Shelton's house. Miss Shelton was from Louisiana, and we called her our second mother. And Miss Shelton was a small business owner. And so from being a child, I know who our small business owners are. They are community leaders, civic leaders. They mentor. They hire locally. They build up the community. They are part of the fabric of the community. And small business owners are the backbone of America's economy. So, in my plan to build an opportunity economy, one of the things I will do is raise the startup deduction from $5,000 to $50,000 to help entrepreneurs start their small business. You heard Eric talk about it. We need to build more housing in America. You know, my mother saved up for years to buy our first home. I was a teenager by the time she saved up enough to do that. And right now we know there's a serious housing shortage in our country, and it is part of what is driving up costs. So we will cut the red tape and work with the private sector to build 3 million new homes and provide first-time home buyers with a $25,000 down payment assistance so you can just literally get your foot in the door and you'll handle the rest. We need to lower the cost of living. Look, our economy is making good progress. Just this morning, we got a solid jobs report, right? Over 250,000 jobs created last month. Unemployment fell. And just a few weeks ago, the Federal Reserve cut interest rates, which helps. But there's still more we need to do. Prices for everyday things like groceries are still too high. You know it and I know it. And I have a plan on lowering costs on everything from health care to groceries, including taking on corporate price gouging. Because as Attorney General, I saw what happens where there are a few of them, not everybody, but those who take advantage of desperate people, in particular in the middle of an emergency, and there needs to be consequence. I will give a tax cut to 100 million Americans, including $6,000, extending and expanding the child tax credit. So during the first year of a child's life, young parents have the support they need to be able to buy a car seat, to buy a crib, to take care of their child during that first year of their life, knowing it's about setting them on a path to do everything they have a natural desire to do. And look, I say all this to say, I will always put the middle class and working families first. I come from the middle class, and I will never forget where I come from. I will never forget where I come from. And we know we cannot have a strong middle class without American manufacturing. So over the last 3.5 years, we have brought manufacturing back to America, creating 730,000 manufacturing jobs. We announced the opening of more than 20 new auto plants in the United States. Did it by investing in American industry and American workers. And I will make sure that America, not China, wins the competition for the 21st century. Which is why, under my plan, we will invest. And we will ensure that the next generation of breakthroughs, from advanced batteries to electric vehicles, are not only invented but built right here in America by American union workers. And Michigan, let us be clear, contrary to what my opponent is suggesting, I will never tell you what kind of car you have to drive. But here's what I will do. I will invest in communities like Flint. Flint, which helped build the auto industry and the UAW. We will retool existing factories, hire locally, and work with unions to create good-paying jobs, including jobs that do not require a college degree. Because we understand And a college degree is not the only measure of whether a worker has skills and experience to get the job done. In fact, part of my plan is to outline all of the federal jobs that should not require a college degree and make that clear. And when I'm elected, I'm going to challenge the private sector to take on the same approach. And then there's Donald Trump. Approach. So Donald Trump makes big promises, and he always fails to deliver. He said he was the only one who could bring back America's manufacturing jobs. Remember that? And then America lost nearly 200,000 manufacturing jobs when he was president. Including tens of thousands of jobs in Michigan. And those losses started before the pandemic, making Donald Trump one of the biggest losers of manufacturing jobs in American history. For the auto industry was a disaster. He promised workers in Warren that the auto industry would, I'll quote, not lose one plant during his presidency. And then American automakers announced the closure of 6 auto plants when he was president. We need a medic over here. We need a medic over here. Right here. Okay, can everyone part so the medic can come through, please? Let's let the medic through. Okay. Okay. He's okay. All right. We're good. We got each other. Good. So, remembering again what Donald Trump talked about versus what he did, then American automakers announced the closure of 6 plants when he was president, including General Motors in Warren and Stellantis in Detroit. Thousands of Michigan auto workers lost their jobs. And when it came to building the cars of the future, Donald Trump sat on the sidelines and let China dominate. And then he talks down to American workers, saying we can't compete with Chinese workers. And make no mistake, Donald Trump is no friend of labor. He encouraged automakers to move their plants out of Michigan so they could pay their workers less. And when the UAW went on strike to demand higher wages that they deserved, Donald Trump went to a non-union shop, don't forget. And he attacked the UAW. And he said striking and collective bargaining don't make, quote, a damn bit of difference. Remember how he's talked about striking workers, that you should fire them. That's how he talks about union labor. That's how he talks about workers. But Flint, we know, strong unions mean higher wages, better health care, and greater dignity for union members and for everyone. top of all of that, Donald Trump signed a $2 trillion tax cut that mostly went to the wealthy and big corporations, not to working people. And now he is making the same empty promises to the people of Michigan that he did before. But we will not be fooled. We will not be gaslighted. Donald Trump's track record is a disaster for working people. And if he wins again, it will be more of the same. Check this out. 2 days ago, his running mate, maybe you saw that. No, but how about that Tim Walz, by the way? That's right. So 2 days ago, Donald Trump's running mate suggested that if Trump wins, he might let the Grand River Assembly plant in Lansing close down. The same plant that our administration helped save earlier this year along.
All right, we have been listening live. Vice President Kamala Harris in the state of Michigan, her second stop there today in Flint, as you can see. The vice president going after Donald Trump there in the auto capital of the world, on the auto industry, and on unions as well. Part of Harris's speech as we listen to her in Michigan. Thanks for being with us in Washington this evening. I'm Blake Berman. This is The Hill on NewsNation. Joining me tonight throughout the hour here on The Hill, Michaela Carr, former chief of staff to Kevin McCarthy, Chris Stirewalt, NewsNation political editor and host of The Hill Sunday, Kelly Meyer, NewsNation Washington correspondent, Scott Bolden, NewsNation political contributor, former D.C. Democratic Party chair. Hello to you all. Happy Friday. Hello. We've been listening to Kamala Harris there. Her second stop, Chris, in Michigan today. You picked up on something when she was speaking. She said, "I will not tell you what car to drive."
Yes, the days of the Democratic Party's enthusiasm for electric vehicles is over for this election year. I don't know whether it comes back later. And as Michaela was talking about while we were listening, the rules haven't changed at the Biden EPA, right? The regulations that are set in the California regulations still will push the country in that direction. But what we have heard from Kamala Harris has been the most unrelenting, unbroken sprint to the center to appeal to that last sliver of persuadable voters, that last little bit out there. And it's been something remarkable to see.
She was talking about unions, trying to make the case that Donald Trump isn't pro-union. Donald Trump, speaking of sprint to the center, has moved toward the unions. How does that sit with your side of the aisle right now?
It's really shocking. I think it's part of kind of the larger realignment that we're seeing happening. I mean, you know, with the Teamsters, with the firefighters not being willing to embrace the Democrat Party, but also the party's kind of really shifting in some of their ways. And I think we'll see more of that happen as we get closer to D-Day.
You know, what upside down.
Well, yeah, I mean, what about electric vehicle? You know, the Biden team, President Biden was embracing this, and as Chris notes, she's now running away from it. The messaging there in Michigan is mixed.
Yeah, maybe, but I also think that the Biden administration, Harris administration, have concluded that they can do both, or at least have argued in the past they can do both. That this is going to be a gradual process to the green side to save the planet, and I think you're seeing that even in that political comment.
If you'd have told me 5 years ago that the Democratic nominee for president would be thanking Richard B. Cheney, the former vice president of the United States, the architect of the Iraq invasion, for his service to the country, and that the Republican side would be siding with labor unions against management in crucial decisions, I would say, what in the world has happened?
And if you would have told me,
if
you would have told me, Kelly Meyer, that today President Biden would go out to the White House briefing room podium, I would have said absolutely no way. There was a fascinating dynamic today. As I mentioned, this was the second stop for Kamala Harris in Michigan today. Her first was at 2:04. She got on the stage in Detroit. And what happened at 2:06 here in Washington? President Biden, Kelly, went to the briefing room podium. There is a report out from NBC News this week in which it says, quote, "It's very complex. Biden struggles with being out of the national conversation. You do not do that unless you do not step on your vice president unless you want to purposefully. What was he doing today?
And it's so interesting seeing how this has evolved, because when she first he endorsed her and she got into this spot, he kind of stepped back a little bit. She had moments with the press conference with Netanyahu at the White House, or when the detainees came back and she was there to meet them at the landing and talk and do the press conference. Yeah. Exactly. So he's kind of given her space to be her own person, but now he's kind of stepping back in there. And he was out there this week with the recovery efforts. He kind of stepped in, as we were talking about, with the FEMA effort. And now you're seeing him just 2 moments later after she came out to talk at that briefing.
All right, still to come here on the Hill as we were listening to Kamala Harris. On the other side of the break, Steyerwalt is going to break down how one group in particular will likely decide who becomes the next president. And by the way, Donald Trump tomorrow in Butler, Pennsylvania. You're watching The Hill here on NewsNation. All right, welcome back here to The Hill on NewsNation. Believe it or not, there are still some, maybe your neighbors, your friends, your relatives, who knows, some who still have not made up their mind in the presidential race. What we do know about these voters, though, and how will they break in the final weeks? Steyerwalt is here to break it all down. Chris?
Many people are saying this is the greatest breakdown ever.
That's what Chris told me in the break.
It's all happening right now. It's all happening right now, thanks to the great Caleb Parker. Okay, here you go. Here's our DDHQ election average for today. This is where we are at 32 days from Election Day. And we talk all the time about the swing state shift. Swing state shift means Democrat, you can subtract 2 points from the Democrat, basically to get your real margin. If Kamala Harris, who's up 3.4 points in that first graphic, she's up 3.4 points, that puts her just outside of the swing state shift. That gives her, she's not comfortable, but it gives her a little breathing room over the 2-point margin that she needs. But what's left over once you take Trump and Harris out? 3.8% of the electorate is undecided. Now, they're going too fast for me. I can't keep up with all this. What you need to understand is that every election, there's going to be some share that, and I'm not going to say throw your vote away, there's going to be some share that casts a protest vote. In 2020, it was 1.9%. Mm-hmm. If that's true, then what's left? About 2 points. There's about 2 points worth of undecided vote that is still out there in this great... I complained about the speed of the graphics, and you know what they did? They turned the whole thing off. They turned the whole thing off because I complained about it, and I'm sorry.
So we've got no graphic, but we've got numbers. In summation, as we walk across, I think what you should know is that there were a lot more undecided and persuadable voters who were available to Donald Trump in 2016. Oh, look, we can see the graphic over here. It's fantastic. So there you see the numbers in 2016. Before September, 60% of the electorate made up their minds. Hillary Clinton killed Donald Trump. But then the people who made up their minds in September, well, Donald Trump caught up. Now let's go to the next graphic. Let's see if I break the wall again when I ask for the next graphic. Will it happen? Here it is. Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting. 12% of the electorate was still available. When they went into October, it was 51-37. And then in the final week, look at that, the 49-41. So Donald Trump closed really strong because there was a lot of the electorate that was undecided. Now compared to 2020. These are all from exit polls. Look at this 2020 number. When you see this, you will understand where we are in this election. And that is that 73% of the electorate had made up their minds before September. That's 13 points more than it was in the 2016 election. People made up their minds a lot sooner in 2020. Biden was ahead, not as far as ahead as Clinton was, but doing pretty well. Then we get to the 11% that decides in September. Biden's still ahead. Turn the page. What do you get when you get to now? This is where we were 4 years ago right now. Trump was starting to catch up. He did better in October, but there was only 8% left. And then in the last week, there it is, just 2%, not 5%, but Trump killed it, 64%. So here's the deal. Look at that. I want you to think about that 3.8%, third party or undecided. So we're left with about 2% of the electorate once we back out the protest voters. If Donald Trump does as well with that 2%, as he did with the last 2% 4 years ago, he will be inside the swing state shift and have a decent chance of winning.
But if Kamala Harris gets just half, if she gets just half of what's left, she will win an outright national popular vote majority, and she will win the presidency.
Steyerwalt breaks it down. You were right, the best ever, so much so that you broke the graphics.
I broke that's how good these numbers were. We broke the magic wall.
Thanks, brother. Still ahead here on the Hill. We've got power. We've got stories. We've got news. Live look, though, North Carolina. Former President Trump holding a town hall in about 30 minutes from now, and he is returning to Butler, Pennsylvania tomorrow. The site of his assassination attempt, the first one. Brian Entin, live from Butler, and a remarkable reporting from Brian today on what he is finding in Butler and what the people there are going through. That's on the other side. Welcome back here to the Hill on NewsNation. Butler, Pennsylvania, site of the July 13th failed assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump. Trump is now making a return to that Western PA town. He will do so tomorrow, posting this on social media today, saying, quote, Butler on Saturday, historic. Trump has this fist up, as you see there in that now historic photo. Our campaign reporter, Libby Dean, captured the sentiment in Butler earlier this morning. You can see the picture there. Someone writing on a street in that town the phrase fight, exclamation point. One of the true moments that will be remembered forever in this campaign for decades to come. Trump will be joined by dozens of special guests tomorrow, including his running mate, the Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, the wife of the slain firefighter, Corey Comparatori, and the world's richest man, Elon Musk, will be at the event tomorrow. Joining us now live from Butler, Pennsylvania, are Brian Entin. Joins us live from Butler once again. Brian, it was fascinating. I was reading something that you posted earlier today. You know, there's the politics of all this, right? And we talk about this on the show all the time. But one thing I noted from your reporting is the people who were at that first event, they witnessed a shooting. They witnessed death that day. And you say you've spoken to many of them, and they have PTSD. What else did you hear today?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, Blake, because I came into this also thinking about the politics of it, and I was thinking a lot about the investigation, and I came really wanting to look at the security and what was going to be different this time. But immediately when I started talking to people here in Butler, the emotion of it is just so real. I mean, the entire town went to the first rally for the most part. It feels like the entire town, almost everybody. And they were there when this happened. I mean, they saw a man die. They saw 2 other people get shot. They saw former President Trump get shot in the ear. They saw all the blood. They saw the chest compressions. And that was a lot to take in. And for so many of them, they're going to go to the second rally. They're going to go to the rally tomorrow. There's a few that I talked to that said, look, like, I love former President Trump, but I just can't do it. But most of the people I talked to said, it's going to be hard. I'm probably going to cry. But I just feel like it's the right thing to do to take a stand against political violence. I want to be there. And tonight, I just noticed this, Blake. You can probably see it over my shoulder, way in the distance. They just raised that big American flag up over the stage where President Trump is going to be tomorrow. And it is the exact spot. It is literally the exact spot where Trump stood when he was shot. So he's going to be standing in the same exact spot. Security is much tighter, but it's certainly going to be a moment.
Yeah, and as Brian mentions that crane, the Trump campaign says the owner of that company, one of the folks who will be in attendance tomorrow, to Brian's point, a lot of that, if not most of that community, will be there. Brian Entin, live for us in Butler, Pennsylvania this evening. Brian, thank you. All right. Meantime, former President Trump and the Georgia Governor Brian Kemp are setting their 2020 differences aside, at least for the moment. The two coming together today to survey the damage from Hurricane Helene. Now, this is the first time in 4 years the two Republicans are appearing alongside each other. Trump and Kemp have had a fractured relationship since the 2020 election. Kemp saying it was not stolen. Since then, Trump has criticized Kemp and even his wife. But now they are joining forces to help those in need. All right, some corrupted video there. Now, with Election Day on the horizon, Georgia election officials are trying to ease voters' concerns with new election rules. As part of our continuing Swing State Spotlight series, tonight we focus on the Peach State. Joining us live from Savannah, Georgia, is our next star colleague at WSAV News 3, Ben Sanger. Ben, you've got a lot of fascinating dynamics happening in your state this evening.
No shortage of storylines, that is for sure. Why don't we start with what happened up in Augusta today? Not once, but twice, the former president called Governor Brian Kemp a fantastic governor, saying he was doing a fantastic job. That is quite different from the messaging that he has been putting out in recent years, very critical of the governor. What was interesting and what we are waiting to hear, I guess, more from Governor Kemp this evening, whether he will be asked about former President Trump's remarks later on in that press briefing. President Trump did not bring up the federal response himself. He was asked that after his remarks by reporters, and he claimed that the federal response had been lacking, though we know that Governor Kemp has not been critical of the federal response. So we'll wait to see whether Kemp will have something to say about what the former president said.
Ben Sanger live for us in Savannah, Georgia this evening. Ben, thank you very much. Appreciate it. As Ben mentioned there, Trump is trying to make amends with the governor in Georgia. They were not talking, and now they're talking, and Republicans were worried about this, and that's probably why you're seeing what we're seeing now.
I'll tell you, that Brian Kemp is kind of a stud duck. He waited on Donald Trump. He waited him out because he knew that Trump would come back and need him later. And Donald Trump, just if we want to know how it was, Donald Trump one time said it would be better if Stacey Abrams defeated Brian Kemp. Donald Trump hated Brian Kemp because Brian Kemp would not help him steal that election. He and Brad Raffensperger down in Georgia said, no, we're not going to play along. We're not going to do it. And Trump did everything he could to take him out. Right. He primaried him. He did everything that he could.
After his wife,
went after his wife. Just the worst. And you know what? Kemp never cracked. And he didn't go either way. He didn't say, now I'm not a Republican, I'm going to, join the resistance. And neither did he knuckle under, and he waited. And so it was very significant that Trump today had to come and eat crow.
Your party needed this, right? Republicans who we've been talking to were saying Donald Trump could not win Georgia if that didn't happen.
Yeah, I think it's really important that we are able to coalesce and make a decision that the disastrous policies from the Democrats are more important than our dislike, or some people's dislike, of the top of the ticket. And what we've seen is the record of the last 4 years is really helping that narrative, even when we juxtapose it with the rhetoric that she has newly found in the last month or so.
So Donald Trump...
I felt him at the other end of the table.
Donald Trump was in Georgia. Donald Trump was in Georgia today, Scott, because of the storm response. And there is exposure there to Kamala Harris and to the White House because it is a real natural disaster there. What is the exposure? Because that's why Donald Trump is in part down there.
Yeah, but the natural disaster isn't just the flooding in Helene. The natural disaster is that Georgia is in play. And I don't know whether you all looked at that video, but I didn't see a love fest at all.
Oh, there was no love fest there.
Not at all. And it was tolerance, if you will. It was like they were looking away from each other, shaking each other's hand because God told them to shake hands because Georgia is super necessary. It'll be interesting to see what the governor does. Not so much this photo op and coming together for the people of Georgia who have been affected by Helene. Does he put people on the ground? Does he do fundraising? Does he get behind him? Because he needs the governor, who's a popular governor in Georgia, to get behind him.
And the Republican Party in Georgia is a basket case. Brian Kemp basically had to create his own parallel structure to replace a state party that's sort of fell apart. There's another reason this is real important, real quick, is because the discretionary piece now to certifying Georgia election results on the presidential race, right? That's another storyline that's going to play out. If they don't certify those elections because of some discretionary issue, it's going to be up to Kemp again.
We talked about the White House, Kelly, real quick, putting the president out there today at the briefing room. Part of it is because there are real questions tonight about the FEMA response.
Absolutely. And if they are getting that aid there fast enough, and I think this may be the last time you see potentially Kemp with Trump there, but to make sure that they are getting the aid into these communities, into those places. And there are a lot of questions. And to see President Biden come out and say, to talk about that response, he tried to go there firsthand himself and talk with the governor, even though there was that back and forth with Trump over whether or not Kemp did. And even Kemp came out and said,
all right, so we started the show here with Kamala Harris in Michigan tonight. Live look right now in North Carolina. Donald Trump, we were not expecting him until 7 o'clock. And would you look at this? Donald Trump in North Carolina tonight, Fayetteville. So he's gone from Brian Kemp in Georgia today, again, the storm response, look at that, to Fayetteville, North Carolina today. And obviously there is, again, the real story of the storm response in that state. It is the dynamic, Chris, that we are in right now. You have two crucial key swing states and two natural disasters in them right now.
Yes, and Donald Trump can't lose either one of them. We just as our daily reminder, Donald Trump has to win everything in the red wall. He has to win Arizona, Georgia, and North Carolina, and then win one out of the blue wall. He has to win Wisconsin, Michigan, or Pennsylvania. Any of the three will do. He has to win one, but he cannot afford to lose North Carolina. He cannot afford to lose Georgia. And right now, the bad news for Donald Trump is North Carolina is looking real tippy. It's looking real tippy for him.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. We're going to see these states kind of at the very last minute are going to make a shift here. And I don't know where it's going to go. I think all those numbers you're talking about are within the margin of error. And so it's anybody's game right now. And what we're looking at is that final little bit. Are personalities going to matter more than policies?
Donald Trump would rather be in the blue states campaigning than North Carolina or Georgia, and now they're spending resources there because the race is so close.
Well, I mean, Kamala Harris was in Michigan too, right? I think you're going to see both of them on their own turf and then trying to make inroads.
Yeah, but the red states are the really red states. I mean, North Carolina and Georgia shouldn't even be in play as close as the race is, and they are now.
Why Fayetteville? As Donald Trump is about to take to the mic, Fayetteville is not normally an area that Donald Trump live. Let's listen here on the Hill. Donald Trump, Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Thank you very much, everybody. This is an honor. And, I walked in, the first question that I asked, should we change the name from Fort Liberty back to Fort Bragg? First question. Right? So here's what we do. We get elected. I'm doing it. And we're leading in all the polls. We should get elected. But remember this, they cheat like hell. We got too big to rig. We need too big to rig. So I just appreciate being here. We did win 2 world wars from Fort Bragg, right? So this is no time, look at that big guy. This is no time to be changing names, but we're going to do that. We're going to do everything we can. We're going to get it back. We're going to bring our country back. Thank you, everybody. Let's have a little fun, right? Okay, good. Gotta be careful with this shit. Go ahead.
Mr. President, I don't think you'd have a problem with North Carolina. I think they love you here.
I love that. And Kamala should be here. She shouldn't be anywhere else. And they're missing $1 billion that they gave to migrants coming into our country. Some of them are murderers. Some of them are drug dealers. Some of them, many of them. 13,099 murderers came into our country during their 3.5. And we're missing $1 billion they gave them to the migrants that came in. And now we don't have the money. We'll do it. But they don't have the money to take care of. That's why they're giving you lousy treatment in North Carolina in particular. And we don't like that, so we're going to let it be known and they have to get a lot better because people are not happy.
Well, you're absolutely right, Mr. President. And before we start with that town hall, I actually wanted to mention that one of your friends here is Silk. Silk, are you here? Where are you at?
I'll tell you, she is my friend, too. And she is my friend. My friend.
Oh, wow. Hey, North Carolina. Real quick now. I want y'all to listen up. I'm a little ticked off. I just want you to know I'm a little ticked off, and I'm going to tell you why. $750. Oh, my. Where American tax dollars is being used to fund illegal aliens into our country. And these illegal aliens didn't pay one dime or one red cent into our systems. And all Kamala Harris and Tampon Timmy want to give us $750? Listen, you all, we only have one choice. One choice, and that's President Donald J. Trump. We cannot afford another 4 years of this, so you're going to have to vote like your life depends on it. Like when you're taking your breath and it's your last breath, and you need that vote in order to breathe, that's what you're going to have to do. So you're going to have to, I'm almost finished, Mr. President. So what you're going to have to do, you're going to have to overvote the cheat, you're going to have to outrun the runway, and we're going to have to make it too big to rig. Now I can feel Diamond rising up in me. Because you have to vote right so you won't get left again. Vote red, R-E-D. Remove every Democrat. They gotta go. They gotta go. Now, while the media continue to play the race card, we're going to continue to play the Trump card so we can win, and win.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. So, you know, it was 9 years ago, and my beautiful wife, our First Lady, we love our First Lady. Did you see her interview on Sean Hannity and with Ainsley in the morning? She did great. But 9 years ago, she came to me. She said, you know, there are two women, and they are really incredible. I said, who the hell are they? He said, you got to see this. You're not going to believe it. They had a thing, and we fell in love like almost immediately.
Yes.
And her sister was just unbelievable, too.
Yes.
And she passed away like a couple of years ago now. It's a long time ago, it seems. It goes fast, right? But what a great combination. We love you both. They were loyal to me from day one. When they heard stuff, they said, that's a lot of crap.
Day one.
They were with me from day one.
Day one.
And that Trump sign gets bigger and bigger. I said, that's so nice, I want to buy one for myself. But
don't you worry, Mr. President, I'm going to give you one.
I don't worry.
That's
but
right,
you know
right.
what?
Yes.
You know what? We appreciate your loyalty, your friendship.
Thank you.
And I saw Silk backstage. I said, I'm bringing you upstage. I'm going to bring you upstage. And we miss your great sister.
Yes.
And we love you. And thank you very much.
You so
thank
much
you.
more.
Thank you. Great.
All right, Mr. President, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm going to be very careful with these things.
Yeah, it's a little bit.
These seats weren't designed for me exactly.
All right, Mr. President, our first question comes from Allie. She was one of the residents here in North Carolina that was directly impacted by the hurricane, and it destroyed her community. Allie, where are you at?
Hi.
Good evening, President Trump. My name is Allie, and I'm from the foothills of North Carolina. Our entire community has been decimated. Thank you, President Trump, for visiting the disaster sites to bring attention and donating millions in relief.
Thank you, Allie.
This week, we have learned that not only did 13,000 murderers illegally cross our border, but FEMA is out of money because they have been providing $9,000 to every illegal. Enough is enough. We must put Americans first. How soon will you start deporting the murderers?
So let me just tell you that you're right about that. It's 13,099 to be exact. And murderers, many of these people murdered more than one person. One did 7. These are not people we want in our country. So this was, I guess, released by somebody that loves us. Maybe in Border Patrol. We don't know exactly where the numbers, but these are certified numbers. And you had 16,000 drug traffickers. You had numbers that nobody's ever seen, 645,000 criminals overall. They're in our country. Nobody has any idea. They're from places unknown. Nobody knows who they are, what they are, but we know that we have over 600,000 people released into our country, along with the ones that you were talking about, the 21,000, but of them, 13,000, more than 13,000 are murderers. And some were on schedule to die. They were scheduled for the death penalty. And we have them now nicely ensconced in our country. I'll tell you what, we have the worst president and the worst vice president in the history of America. They are horrible. They are horrible. That could happen, and just the concept of open borders doesn't make sense. You know, we built 500 miles of wall more, and we're going to add another 200, much more than I said I was going to do. And that's why we had the best numbers ever. Oh, the chart. So you know the chart? My favorite chart, Allie. My favorite piece of paper, my favorite chart. But we had a chart. Do you have something up here they could show? Oh, I love that. I love that chart. Oh, I love that chart. If I didn't look to the right, I wouldn't be going to Butler tomorrow. You know, we're going to Butler tomorrow. If I didn't look over. So, no, but that, if you look at the chart, at the arrow on the bottom, that shows the lowest number in the history of our country. That was the day I left office. And these clowns took over. And what they've done to our country, between that and so many other things, what they've done to our country. But, you know, I view inflation was the worst we've ever had, I think. They say, oh, it was only in 48 years. One of the fake news back there, they corrected me one time. They said, no, 48 years. Oh, okay. But it wasn't. I believe it was the worst that we've ever had. And that's been one of the big problems. But to me, and I know that you talk about the bad economy, you talk about all of the costs, and the costs are so bad. To me, the worst is the border, because it's like what they're doing is they're destroying our country. And it's not easy. We're going to get them out. We're going to have the largest deportation in history. I'm not proud to say that either, but it's a tough thing to do. And we're going to get, Anna, we're going to get the criminals out. We're going to start with the worst of them, and we're going to get them out. And you know who's going to help us? Local law enforcement. Local law enforcement. They're going to be great. They know their names. They know their serial numbers. We're going to get them out. And, you know, very simply, we have a little thing called MAGA. Everybody here knows MAGA. It's called Make America Great Again. That's what we're going to do. We're going to make America great again. Thank you, darling. Really good question. Thank you.
You know, Mr. President, to your credit, too, I think that's largely why you've actually outpaced every other candidate for president with the support from the Hispanic American community, because it's not just erasing. We all want border security. So thank you, Mr. President.
It's an incredible community that I don't know, it's just a very energetic. You know that, right? It's energetic. And they're very entrepreneurial, and they love our country. And we've gotten record numbers with the Hispanic community. And I don't know, it just works. It just works. So I appreciate it very much. Thank you. Thank you, darling, very much.
Thank you, guys. All right, Mr. President, our next question is from John. He was a Green Beret captain who was actually kicked out of the military. I think he's going to share his story with you. 1 second.
Hi. Good-looking guy.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. President. I'm John Frankman. I was a Special Forces Green Beret who was forced out of the military because of the COVID-19 vaccine mandate.
Stuff, right? That's good. That's good.
So the Biden-Harris DoD COVID-19 vaccine mandate was very damaging to the military. It forced thousands of service members out, and thousands do not want to join now. The Biden-Harris DoD has the lowest recruiting in modern history, and now they're pushing more woke training. So how do you plan to repair the military from the damage that was done and hold military leaders accountable?
So I want to have them come back into the military with pay. And, you know, they've been talking about that, but it never happened. They never did what they said they were going to do. There should have never been a mandate. That should have never happened. You should have been given choices, we say. We want choice in education, and we want a choice there, too. And that should have never happened. And, you know, we've lost some of our best people in the military, too. Did you leave? Did you leave? Did you ever take the vaccine or anything?
I never did, sir.
So you want a choice, yeah. And